Hello and good evening and welcome to a special program on NewsX powered by 1xBet. The match between New Zealand and Sri Lanka in the ODI World Cup is being played at the Chinnaswamy Stadium. Well, New Zealand won the toss and decided to bowl first. Interestingly, we'll come back to that point very crisply. Sri Lanka faced early setbacks with Chamira and Chamika getting out cheaply. Mitchell Santner impressed with two crucial wickets, dismissing Dhananjay De Silva and Angelo Matthews. Kusal Pereira's explosive innings, including the fastest half-century of the tournament in just 22 deliveries, added the flair. But Trent Bolt and Tim Southee's earlier strikes put Sri Lanka at 74 for 5 by the end of the day's power play rather. Tom Latham's catch of Pereira of Southee marked the turning point, setting the stage for an intense match. Well, we're going to know everything since the first innings is over. I'll introduce my guest Tasmeen, who's just going to talk about the innings, and then we'll go on to our two great friends from Australia and England wanting to have a go at each other. But first, Tasneem.
Yeah, good evening to you all. So New Zealand just looking like, they probably had the rain on their mind today, and they came out having won the toss and opted to have a bowl first, and take a hit at the Sri Lankans. Probably with the thought in mind of, giving Tim Southee as well as, Trent Bolt up front the opportunity to just be able to take some early wickets, and they definitely came to the party and did the job. I think they just got them within 74 runs for the loss of 5 in the first power play. This might be the most wickets lost thus far in a power play. But
at the same time, if you look at the power play, 74 runs is on the higher side. What makes a team play so fast despite losing the wickets? Your views,
I think the rain was probably on everybody's mind. Sri Lanka probably just wanted to get out there as well and put some runs on the board before it came down. Weather is a funny game. They'll be thinking it's going to come as soon as it says it predicts. And then it just takes its time and lets things like this go on and happen as well. Not to mention, of those 74 runs, 51 of those runs belong to Kusal Pereira as well.
Well, absolutely. Well, who do you think we should get on our show? Should it be the Aussie friend or the English cribbing friend eating fish and chips?
I think I'm going to go with the Australian on this one, knowing where the New Zealand-Australian love-hate relationship comes in as well.
Well, Paul, what do you make of this call on the show today, where we want to understand what is going inside the mind of a team that has scored 400 runs in the previous match and was rain delayed and lost the match, and a team who's got no interest virtually whatsoever to play any more matches? What do you make of this situation?
Yeah, g'day guys. It was an interesting one to score 400 and to lose. Now, I'm never going to criticise Duckworth Lewis Stern. I think it's the greatest invention in cricket. So there were so many terrible things in the past when they were trying to get the rain rules right. Get the mathematicians involved, and you get the best solution. But 400 and losing, you could see how New Zealand and their campaign has started the wheels have started to fall off it after such a great start to have now lost 4 games on the trot and from looking like they were certainly going to qualify for the semis. This is pretty close to a must-win game. Looks pretty good. The only thing is that it was spinning a bit. So, I've seen collapses occur, but I think at the moment New Zealand should be pretty calm to win from here.
Absolutely. They would be calm to it. David Brooks, join the party and tell us, is Sri Lanka playing like England today?
Well, there are parallels, yes. Look at the turmoil off the field. That has to have an impact on the field. The entire board of directors has been fired of Sri Lankan cricket. So poor Chris Silverwood, the English coach of Sri Lanka, is probably thinking, all the people that employed me and signed my contract have all left. Maybe I should find another job as well. So, look, I don't think their minds will be totally on this game. They'll be thinking of their future. That applies to the coaching staff too. I mean, yeah, great to see Kusal Pereira. We know how destructive a player he can be. But it was all too brief in the end, wasn't it? A 50 was not what they needed. They needed a big 100 from one of their more experienced batsmen. I mean, Kusal Mendes, his form since he became captain has dropped. His batting form has gone to pieces, and it just shows you the weight of responsibility if you're not a natural captain is going to weigh on your personal game.
Well, that's an interesting point you made.
The form of Josh Butler, who can't buy a run.
But anyways, do you see some casualty at the top of English cricket soon? They can announce that, David, they can announce their contract in the middle of the World Cup. They can announce retirement in the middle of the World Cup. Do you see some heads rolling in the middle of the World Cup?
No, I don't see the heads rolling between now and their game with Pakistan, which I'm looking forward to on Saturday, isn't it? The later game. But no, I think there'll be, this being an English kind of review, they'll have some sort of review, which will probably take 3 or 4 weeks. And then we might see some changes in advance of the West Indies tour, because England go to West Indies. But, I wouldn't set my watch by it, because there seems to be a general lack of urgency and lack of priority to 50-over cricket. Roland Butcher spoke about that on your breakfast show yesterday. And, he used 2 words which were very strong words coming from the mild-mannered, very respectful man, Roland Butcher. The first one was arrogant, and the second one was complacent. And I think those 2 words will be a damning indictment of England's preparation and performance in this tournament. So, yes, heads will roll. There'll be a veritable bloodbath. Those guys who haven't been given contracts will know the time is up anyway. So it's just a question of when, not if, they'll announce their retirement. Ben Stokes won't play another ODI. I doubt whether we'll see, after the Pakistan match, whether we'll see people like Moeen Ali, even Adil Rashid again, because their time must be up. They won't be there in 4 years' time. So yes, Sunil, I think you're right. Sharpen your knife for the night of the long knives that will occur some point before the end of the year.
Well, Paul, would you be as upset as David if Australia wasn't playing as good as England?
Yeah, absolutely, because I still don't know what happened with England. I mean, they came into the tournament as second favourite. I'm looking for a tell-all book that will come out in months to come as to what kind of turmoil has gone on behind the scenes. It reminds me of what they did a decade ago when they belted Australia in the Ashes in 2013 and then came down to Australia and got absolutely destroyed. No one can do a complete implosion like England can. Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting point, Paul. Paul is always good with his interesting points to be spoken. Paul, I just want to ask you one more question. How is the mindset of Sri Lanka, considering that they're losing wicket at the same time, scoring initially in the power play and then again losing wickets? I mean, what's going in their mind? Is all well with Sri Lanka, or are they playing like club or village cricket?
Well, I mean, it's a very strange set of 10-over brackets, that innings. That's a 74 for 5 in the power play. And then after that, to crawl along and then show some resistance right at the end. It's a very bizarre sort of way to structure an innings. And as David said, the entire board's been sacked. Now the government's trying to override that and bring them back. The High Court, I think, is reinstating them. So I think that the governance around Sri Lankan cricket is a real concern. That they had that period from when they won the World Cup in 96, then they were finalists in 2007 and finalists in 2011. They had a golden generation of players, and it's cyclical. You're not always going to have superstars. Teams rise and teams fall. But I just wonder if there's too much government meddling, too much financial disarray in Sri Lankan cricket. Are we going to see them rise back up to near the top anytime soon? There've got to be some strong question marks.
Are you implying the governance of the sport is directly proportionate to the on-field performance? Does it matter? Because in Afghanistan's case, you could see it's clearly not bothering them whether who comes and runs their regime, as long as they're good at playing the cricket globally as well as in the World Cup. What do you think? There are two different parallels here that we're looking at. Would you agree, or is it just a soft theory?
No, it's a great point. You don't always have to have great governance to have great performance, but I think long term it is one of the most important things that can happen. I mean, Australia got their act together after a poor period in the 1980s and really got organised and had a wonderful period after that. You look at the West Indies and they had a period of utter dominance of world cricket, but now falling away, and then part of that is because of their small population and interests going elsewhere. But I also don't think the governance of West Indian cricket has been fantastic either. So it's not an absolute essential. You can have brilliant players that can overcome poor governance, but I think over the long term, it is a vital thing.
Long term, it's a viable thing. Tasmin, what is the latest before we go on to David right now? What is the latest right now? What is the highlights of the match that you can share with our viewers?
Yeah, so they went from scoring 74 runs for the loss of 5 wickets in the first power play to taking the next 30 overs to score 81 runs for the loss of 4 wickets. Not entirely sure what was going on with Sri Lanka today. It's like they were in a rush to put a bit of a score on the board, but not exactly with a clear plan of how they were going to get it done as well. They went ahead as well and they just got bowled out, having lost their last wicket just for 16 runs within the 47th over coming out on them as well. And it's just, for me, it's very confusing. We've seen the likes of, obviously, Lockie Ferguson coming in, bowling 2 maidens, going for just 35 runs, picking up 2 wickets in his 10. Again, Trent Boult going for just 37 runs, picking up 3 wickets, bowling 3 maidens.
Yes.
This coming from a seam bowler, an opening seam bowler as well. Will tell you that they weren't really entirely looking to rotate, strike up front as well in those overs as well, right down to, we've seen them bring Boult back in the middle overs again. At some point, Mitchell Santner was going at 1.5 per over, and that's a big deal, as well for him, because what we've actually seen is batsmen feel more comfortable to play against the spin bowler in the middle period, as well as the fact that the field is spread after the first 10 overs. So there's more pickings, easier pickings for you to be able to hit gaps. And if not hit gaps, hit the sweepers and probably look to push them and take the second run a lot easier. So for me, I think it's been quality bowling from New Zealand today. If you look at the scorecard for Sri Lanka, it doesn't do them much justice. The person that faced the most balls in this innings was Tikshana at the end. He faced 91 balls and he ended up on 38 not out. What does that say for you if your number 9 coming in is facing the majority of the balls in an innings, as opposed to probably say anyone between 1 up to 6 possibly in the batting order? The highest wicket partnership is a 10th wicket partnership as well. Just coming from Tikshana as well as Madhushanka. We wrote the guy Madhushanka as a wicket taker, but he's out here trying to salvage his team's pride as well. How much responsibility do you want to put on one person? I'm with David and Paul on this one. Maybe giving Kusal Mendes the job of being captain has completely ruined his World Cup campaign as well. Not everybody bears the responsibility equally.
Well, absolutely, not everyone bears the responsibility equally. David, would you agree to that statement, considering this is the most bizarre form of ODI match that one is watching right now or one has witnessed? Your views? All right, I think there is some technical problem with David, but Paul, would you think this is one of the most bizarre World Cup matches that you would play, or rather not play?
Well, it's hard to say this is one of the most bizarre, having seen the one before it where I'm going to use any excuse to bring up Glenn Maxwell, but that was probably the most bizarre one-day game I've seen in a long time. This was certainly a bizarre innings by Sri Lanka. Yes. The diligence and the value that the tail enders put on their wickets, certainly that would be something you'd like to see the top order do a bit more. Although I do think that the pitch is spinning a bit. Trent Boult was interviewed after the innings and was saying he was surprised that the pitch was spinning as much as it was. And Santner at times looked very, very difficult to play, whereas normally he's a very economical bowler, but he's not the sort of bowler that you associate with unplayable deliveries. So when the pitch has got a bit in it, this sort of thing is possible. I suppose you've got to give them some credit for fighting it out at the end. Well, absolutely. Tasmin, you want to add something on that before we get a sober David back on air?
Yeah, I'm definitely with Paul on this one. It's Trent Boult in his post-match interview as well, in this post-interview actually said that, they as seam bowlers as well early on up front had to find a way to adjust, probably correct their lengths a bit more, look to bowl fuller, because possibility of with the height that they have, bowling back of a length was good enough for any Sri Lankan batsman to get back into their crease and actually be able to play square of the wicket. But Sri Lanka didn't capitalize on that. We do know that they've been struggling against the shorter ball this series. We've seen Lockie Ferguson come out and just miss a couple of heads in his innings that he did come out and bowl today. So I think, I'm with Paul on this one, that it is on a bit of a slower track, and Sri Lanka do have the spin bowling power to be able to maybe cause some problems for New Zealand. But it's going to go down to the fact that New Zealand batsmen have been in great form. Not to mention Kane Williamson back in the squad as well. He is the pivotal anchor for this team at the end of the day. And he'll want to be there, out there for as long as possible if he does even come into play and just steer the ship for his team all the way across the line.
Well, Paul, what do you make of the entire situation when the table standing comes in front of you? Do you think we've got a clear first, second that we had already, but third and fourth now? After this match, or we wait for another match on Saturday, the Pakistan match?
Well, I think it's pretty much guaranteed. It is guaranteed. It's Australia and South Africa in one semi-final. Who does India play in the other? New Zealand looking very, very likely. I'd say it's probably a 90% chance that it will be New Zealand. As long as they win this game, then they're not mathematically guaranteed. We could see a crazy game against between Pakistan and England, because Pakistan will know what they need to do to leapfrog New Zealand on net run rate, even if New Zealand win this. But it will be something pretty extraordinary that they would need to do. And so I think that New Zealand looking like they're going to come fourth, but still a possibility for Pakistan or Afghanistan.
Well, absolutely, and this is what it makes the game very exciting. Paul, do you rue the chances that we didn't get the last over finishes and the last ball finish like you get in the T20, or you're happy with the way things have progressed? Because, mind you, this tournament has seen the most number of sixes, the most number of runs run in the power play, most number of runs scored while running between the wickets. Are you happy with the overall situation?
Yeah, there's been plenty of exciting matches. We haven't had an enormous number of close ones, but I often think these tournaments are defined by what happens at the end. That everyone remembers the 2019 World Cup for the amazing final. And even that game was a microcosm of my overall point, that final is regarded as possibly the greatest one-dayer of all time. Yet, for much of the game, it was a very acquisitional, attritional sort of game where they were scoring singles rather than big hits. But the finish, just that's all that anyone remembers. So if we could get a couple of semi-finals that go down to the wire, or a classic finish, that's what this World Cup is going to be remembered for.
Well, absolutely. Tasmin, what about you? Were you happy with the way things at the associate members and the junior teams coming up and playing in the World Cup right now?
Yeah, definitely. It's been great from Afghanistan. It's been great from Netherlands. I take nothing away from Netherlands, regardless of the fact that they've only won 2 games at this stage. But it's the fact that they've won something that then leaves belief within their own dressing room, as well as they board back home. Give the guys the confidence, give the guys the leeway to be able to do something better. Contract these guys, you know what I mean? Give them better facilities and let them show you. They've proved it to you already that they didn't just come here to gain a participation award, but they're good enough to compete. They went as far as beating South Africa, a team that's already qualified for the semi-finals as well. And I think what it comes to show you, even the performance of Afghanistan right now, is that the gap between associate member nations as well as test playing nations is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And I'm all for the ICC's initiative to add more associate nations to actually the next World Cup coming up as well.
Well, that's all we had time for. I thank Paul Dinette, who joined us from Australia pretty late at night to talk to his fans, people out here. Thank you for your podcasts as well. And Tasmin Granger, the international player from Zimbabwe, who's played strongly for 15 years and hopefully for another 5 as she wants to come and play IPL for women in India. Well, that's all we had time for. Keep watching NewsX.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.